Suddenly, it looks like the rebuilding Canadiens actually know how to play defense. What the heck happened? We'll discuss that and much more on this week's Hockey Inside Out show. Hi there, and welcome to another episode of the Gazette's weekly Hockey Inside Out show. I'm Stu Cowan of the Gazette, and I'm joined by, you know who these guys are, my regular partners here, former Canadiens teammates and Stanley Cup champs, Chris Nilan and Rick Green. So the Canadiens are on a 2-game winning streak now after beating the Edmonton Oilers 3-0 Monday night at the Bell Center, and they've outscored the opposition 8-1 in the last 2 games. Rick, I know you've spoken about defensive problems of this team on this show since the beginning of the season. Have they started to turn things around? What's going on here?
Well, I'm hoping that, seeing the results after these 2 games, that they're beginning to understand, the importance of defense first and positioning themselves in such a way that they're not doing the high risk type of plays, gambling and, really digging in to try and find ways to be successful one-on-one battles. And, anytime that a team really tries to protect the middle of the ice in their defensive zone and, trying to keep everything to the perimeter, which seems to be a commitment that they're trying to do right now, which is, the recipe for success. And, I'm hopeful that these guys are aware of the things that they've done that give them success and are going to have to continue because obviously it works. And if they're committed and, ready to pay the price defensively, they can get some results. And of course, you have to give full credit to Montembeault being there, at the right place at the right time, making the save that allows them to gain a little more confidence as they try and get their act together, moving forward.
Knuckles?
Yeah, listen, they've been a lot better these last 2 games. I think maybe 3, 4, maybe a month from now, we're either going to look back on this and say this game was a turning point, these last 2 games, or we're going to say, they just happen to play well those 2 games. I don't know. I hope this is a turning point. And, one of the things I noticed, I was at the game and the last couple of games, they've been really good in the neutral zone. They've been turning pucks over, going the other way. They scored 4 of their goals off of forcing turnovers in the neutral zone. What's that mean? They're in good position in the neutral zone. They're alert. They're being assertive. They're picking pucks off. They're breaking up plays in the neutral zone, keeping it out of their end of the rink, and then they're going the other way. In their own end of the rink, they protected the middle really well. And the times that they got good scoring opportunities, like the Zach Hyman shot that Montembeault made an awesome save. That's what you need from your goaltenders. They got to come up with those timely big saves that keep you in the game. There was situations early in the game they could have fell down 1-0. Remember, McDavid went and done his thing. Everyone went, ooh, the whole building went. Yeah. If they score on that play, they're down 1-0, and it's like, oh, now we got to play catch up. Instead, they get the timely saves. They score. They get ahead. They finally get that second goal. And, they defended well. Honestly, the best game of the season by them. It was awesome to see. I went in the building thinking, oh, this could be a blowout. And it was just 180 from a blowout.
Yeah, well, they kept McDavid had 1 shot on goal. Draisaitl had 2. I don't know how much you guys believe in the analytics stats or whatever, but they say that the Oilers only had 4 high danger scoring chances, 5-on-5. After the game, Rick, Marty made an interesting note. He said that they're not trying to make maybe plays now, the Canadiens. Like, maybe this will work. They're sort of keeping it simple and waiting for the other team to make mistakes. Is that sort of what you noticed also?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you force situations that are not your best option, then you're playing a high risk play. And right now they seem to be concentrating on eliminating high risk play, keeping it simple. And, Knox touched on the neutral zone strength that they had against the last couple of games. And, I think that's I'm in agreement with that. But that happens because of their discipline in their third man high that allows the defenseman to come up tight in the neutral zone and try to take away the opposition speed. And there's no better team to try and close the gap, if you will, and eliminate their speed if you can, is to play it tight in the neutral zone with everybody, up and, being aggressive to try and break plays up before they get themselves going. And, that's something you have to build on. And again, they got to highlight those areas that are details that's going to allow them to play a solid defensive game.
Listen, I'll say one thing about the Oilers, though. Look at that team. They brought Skinner over. Hyman's not getting it done. They're struggling. They have that scoring depth, and it's not showing through. They split up McDavid and Draisaitl, trying to get more balance in the lineup. And I'm not taking anything away from the Canadiens. They put those two guys together last night in Ottawa, and it was a different story. They played together. They ended up beating Ottawa 5-2. I think they had 3 points or 4 points, McDavid and Draisaitl. So, that was good. They were split up, and they were able to focus on each one of those players separately at different times on the ice. So it was good.
Well, it's interesting, the talent on the Oilers coming into the game against the Canadiens had a better power play than the Oilers. The Canadiens were 10th in the NHL, and I think the Oilers were like 17th or something like that, which is hard to believe when you look at the talent they have. But the Canadiens, that's 6 games in a row now, they've limited the opposition to 30 shots or less. Plus, Sam Montembeault has just been great. The last 4 games, he's got a 3-1-0 record, 0.93 goals against average, .960 save percentage, 1 shutout. And Penguins GM Kyle Dubas was in the Bell Center for Monday's game. A lot of people wanted to trade speculation with the Canes, but I think he was there more so for his role as part of the management team for the Four Nations face-off for Team Canada. And the way Montembeault's playing now, Rick, you have to think that he's a strong candidate for that because none of the other Canadian goalies are really playing great.
Yeah, he's getting the timely save when you need it, and it's all works together with the guys in front of him. And if you can try and force the opposition to use the perimeter, if you will, or the less dangerous areas for shooting, that's to your advantage. But I also see a real commitment by the guys wanting to get in the shooting lanes and wanting to block a lot of the shots and making it really difficult for the opposition to try and get pucks through. And if the pucks do get through, I'm seeing a better result of the guys getting to the rebounds and clearing them. And, this is all tied in together as a group. But one thing always remains the same is the goaltender has to be your big guy back there to make that save. And the players seem to be really, forcing themselves to be committed to clean up that defensive zone that's going to allow them some success moving forward.
No, because how much is Montembeault playing better or the players in front of him playing better?
Always a combination, always a combination. Let's look at the first game they play against Toronto. They got that shutout. That was more Sam Montembeault who stood in his head.
46 shots, I think it was. Yeah.
The other night, not so much so. He made some key saves, some routine saves and some not so routine saves. But, when you get them high danger scoring chances like they had in that first game against Toronto, man, and he stood on his head. He kept them in that game. He won that game for them. And the other night, that's a combination. He made good saves, timely saves, but boy, they played well. It's the best they played all season in front of whatever goaltender was in there.
Yeah, the thing that impressed me about Montembeault is that he's so calm and cool. Like nothing, he doesn't get too high, he doesn't get too low. He has a bad game, he seems to be able to bounce back. He lets in a bad goal, he doesn't really show it. You guys both played with Patrick, one of the greatest goalies ever. Was he like that, or was he more emotional, or how did he react after guys not playing well in front of him or letting in a bad goal or stuff like that?
In the early going, he didn't say much. He just did his thing. Then he became Patrick, won the Stanley Cup, and then it was like, there'd be times he'd be fiery, and then he'd speak up. As he got, after I was long gone, I'm sure there were times he'd come in and put his foot down in the room if things weren't going his way. But for the most part, Patrick, he focused on what he had to do. he'd keep his puck in his glove and stare at it and look at it. But yeah.
I think we know that position is the toughest one on the team, and confidence is a big part of it. And when you've got a goalie that feels good about his game, with that goes his aggressiveness to the shooter. And I see Montembeault. He's not passive anymore. He's not hoping that the puck hits him. He aggressively challenges the shooter, to the point where he, eliminates a lot of the good scoring chances by him being aggressive. And that comes with some success, pucks hitting him more often than not. And I'm happy for him because he was the first one to know that he has to get a lot better.
Apart from Patrick's obvious skill, Rick, what did you like most about playing in front of him?
He was a guy that we knew every night what we were going to get from him. So we were, as a group, we're basically saying, okay, of course, back then you could physically move guys from in front of the net. Let him see the shot, no matter where it was coming from. He'll make the save. We'll get the rebound. And Patrick was really good at that. But we had a good group that understood the importance of don't let the opposition set up screens. We can move them out of the way. Patrick was going to save it no matter who was hammering the puck, and we weren't too far away from him when it came down to who's going to get to the rebound first. So it was a group effort.
And not two defensemen in the corner at the same time, right?
Only on the penalty kill. Listen, he was a great angle goaltender. He let the puck hit him a lot. Like, he was really good. Very rarely lost his net, and he had great rebound control. And again, like Rick said, when those rebounds were there, we had the defensemen to clear them out. There weren't a lot of second chance goals scored on that goalie because, one, he didn't give a lot that way, and two, we had the D-men to cover up for him when he did.
Well, talking with Cole Caulfield after the Oilers game was interesting because, I was talking about how much Marty's maybe changed his philosophy since he first came in from offense to defense, focusing more on each. And he said, when Marty came in, the Canadiens were in such a bad shape that he came in, it was just about making it fun. Remember Josh Anderson's quote after the last game with Dominic Ducharme, it's no fun coming to the rink. And he said, he just basically let us go and play offense and do our thing. But he said, it's changing now. Like, he's cracking down much more on the defense. And Cole said it's a case of, we've talked about that hybrid system, it's confusing. And Cole said it's a case of the more they do it and make mistakes, the more they learn from them and improve on it. You guys have both played with a bunch of different systems. That makes sense to you, Rick? And I guess Marty was put in a position where he was allowed to let them make mistakes because the pressure wasn't as much on winning.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fine-tuning process where they go through each and every game and, look at different breakdowns on what they should do and should not do. And, it's not easy to switch on this type of, switch, if you will, and get them playing all on the same page. And, they have obviously struggled in that area, but now they're starting to get committed to playing defense and being more responsible in their D zone. And, hopefully that will continue.
Yeah,
they look a little less confused. They knuckles in their own end, or at least they have the last couple of
years.
Well,
yeah, and I don't know. I haven't seen their practices, but I will tell you, I know back in our practices, we practiced it. And we made our mistakes in practice. And when we made our mistakes in practice, we were corrected. I learned so much in practice from Jacques Lemaire. It's crazy. He would stop. He would watch you play down in your own end of the rink, and he would stop it every time and say, listen, boom. Same on 2-on-1s. We'd work on 2-on-1s, and we'd screw it up. He'd stop. He'd say, listen, here's how you don't do that again. So you would, and I'm not saying we made our mistakes in practice. We also made them in game, but they were a lot less because guys were comfortable playing in their own end of the rink at difficult times in the game, when games are close, when games are tied, when games are 2-1, and you really have to defend, when you're behind, all those things. We're comfortable in those positions, and it certainly helps when you have a goaltender like Patrick in there. Mm-hmm. But, boy, we learned a lot in practice, and we applied it in games.
What would piss Jacques off the most, Knuckles, if you did something
being late?
Did wrong? Being late and not being late?
Being late. You get benched.
Rick, what pissed you off most when you were coaching defense?
Just continuing to see the same mistakes over and over. And I used to try and get Komisarek. I said, he always had his stick up in the air. And I said, you might as well put a flag on the end of it, because that's, what you're doing is you're flying a flag with your stick instead of stick on stick. But, Nux touched on the importance of practicing. And I go back to Lemaire's era with Guy Lafleur. And I remember one of the practices, Guy was supposed to get to the boards and, in the defensive zone, and Lemaire just started ripping him. And Guy came up to him and said, you know what? I ain't playing defense. I'm here to score goals. So don't ask me to play defense. And, end the conversation.
Yeah, we know how that ended, right?
Yeah. We know where that went from there.
You know what? And when we worked on that in practice, right? That's hard in practice, It's not just skating and doing flow drills and all that. No, Jacques would do different stuff. He'd do one-on-one battle stuff all the time. And guys hate it. They're like, but one, it was getting you in great game shape. Mm-hmm. And a lot of even strength matchups where, you couldn't cheat. If you cheated, you got exposed. And then he's going to say, listen, here's the deal. You can't do that there. You got to stay on the strong side. You can't be cheating, trying to, take off and get a breakaway. Doesn't work that way. We got to defend. When we get the puck, we'll worry about offense then.
Now, you mentioned about Jacques getting upset when guys were late. You guys were never late, right, for practices or anything?
I was late one time for when he first took over in Boston. He first took over, and we had an afternoon game and morning breakfast at 9:00. And I showed up at 9:05. And he said, you're supposed to be here at 9. I said, well, it's team meal. He said, well, that's not the way we're doing it anymore. Because we used to team meals at noontime for a night game. Guys would show up at like 10 past, quarter past, depending on when they get back from the rink. I show up at 9:05. He go, no, you're not playing tonight in Boston.
Wow.
And afterwards, he told me, he said, Chris, I had to put my foot down. This team needed discipline, and you gave me the perfect opportunity.
And he would forewarn us, saying that on an 11 o'clock curfew, he said, I'm going to be coming to check. And I used to kind of say to him, well, you better check before 11 because I'll be out afterwards.
Well, we're talking about the defense being better. Offense, Lane Hutson's so fun to watch and such a great playmaker, but he hasn't scored a goal yet in the NHL. And Salfkovsky has only one goal so far this season. Are you concerned about that with either of these guys, or one more than the other? What do you think, Knuckles?
No, I'm not. Listen, Hutson, one, he's on the second power play. Two, his shot couldn't break a pane of glass.
He's got a Victor Mete shot.
But that's okay. He got the quickness to get it through. Guys can tip it, rebounds, all that. I'm not worried about that kid at all. He's just going to grow and get better. Salfkovsky, the only worry I have about him is his frustration. He's got to be more even-keeled, and I get it. I'm an emotional guy when I played. You know that, both of you. Yeah. But, the other night he's breaking sticks over the boards. He's pissed off. He got sat down. He got benched a little bit there. And he's an emotional kid that way. He has to be more even-keeled out there and keep pushing, keep pressing. I'm not worried about him long-term, but short-term here, I think the coach got his attention. He played well the other night against Edmonton, really well. And, man, he's strong. And like I said, that's a guy you got to move your feet all the time. You're a big man. You have to keep moving your feet. You can't be spreading your legs, especially that kid. But I'm not worried about him. We saw what he did last year. that's going to come back. It's still we forget he is a young man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Rick,
two young guys. Yeah, sorry, two young guys that are still trying to figure out how they need to play each and every night, each and every shift. And Salfkovsky has forgotten a little bit of the type of effort and intensity, if you will, that gave him success on the second half of last year. Young kid trying to figure things out. Like Nuck said, he got sat down a little bit, just a little bit of a wake-up call, and for him to realize that, they expect more from him. Good kid, that's going to happen. Lane Hutson, 11 points, no goals, no big deal. Here's a kid that's going to continue to progress in so many ways by, using him in every situation. And, he will get better. He's starting, and hopefully sooner than later, he'll understand the importance of not getting caught in the offensive end when it's time to play defense. And, these type of things come with maturity and game exposure. And two great kids that are going to continue to progress in a very positive way for the future.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the one thing Hutson doesn't have is a shot. Salfkovsky has a shot, but he doesn't seem to be shooting enough. He ranks 11th on the team in shots this season with 22 and 16 games, 4.6% shooting percentage. Last season, he ranked 5th on the team with a 13.2 shooting percentage. He needs to shoot the puck more, for one. I think, but it was interesting because we were talking with him about Marty benching him there in the second period against Columbus, and saying, you have to remind yourself sometimes that you're only 20. And he said, yeah, he says, but I'm only 20, but I'm in my third year. That has more to do with it than my age. He says, it's 3 years in the league. I should be doing what he wants me to do, and when I don't, there's a price to pay. But one thing I noticed with him, he keeps switching. Like, he'll go black tape one game, white tape one game. It's like he's
psycho.
Do you have any superstitions like that you would try and do when you were playing if you were in a slump?
Nothing helped me. Slump. I dropped my gloves and beat the piss out of someone. Listen, Salfkovsky's still a young guy. He's been in the league 3 years, okay? But I still think at times, especially times he was out there with Caulfield early in the year, I think they deferred it, right? We want to get it to the shooter. Right? Nick does. Nick wants to set him up. And I think Salfkovsky, in some sense, and I've seen him do it, he has that opportunity. He's looking to make that pass across through the crease. He did it earlier this season with Caulfield. Remember on that goal, Caulfield had the tap and goal. That was great. But you're right. He has to shoot more. He's that big man. But in order to shoot more, you got to get yourself in position to do that. And that's something guys pay attention to, those big guys, And again, I think the best way for him to get his game going is to get his nose dirty, get in the corners, battle for pucks, get to the front of the net, like Brendan Gallagher does.
Yeah, what a story he's turning out to be this season.
And I hope so, and I really hope that Slav, in his mindset of changing the tape, doesn't go to the Peter Klima style of play where he puts a piece of tape in the middle of his helmet and then he stripes the shaft of his stick to figure that's going to give him success. But anyways, he's a great kid. I love to watch him, and I'm looking forward to better things from him.
Well, I mentioned about him going from black tape to white tape, and Knuckles, what's the craziest superstition you remember a teammate having? Is there one that stands out?
I honestly, the only one I remember is not remember. Like, I used to just put on my right elbow pad, my right skate, all the right. I go to the urinal. There's two of them. I'd always go the one on the right. I think Ludwig was the one. He used to put the number on his game stick. He would put how many games he had left. So it was game 80. He put 80. And then game 40, 40. Then the last 10 would be 10. Then he put 9. He couldn't wait to get the season. Oh, excuse me. He couldn't wait to get the season over with.
Rick, you remember a teammate with a crazy superstition?
Well, aside from the standard routine of who goes on the ice, first, blah, blah, blah. For me, it was just, I always used to, dress my left side first, from shin pad to the skate, and, crazy stuff. But harmless and what the hell. It was kind of, I tried to give myself an advantage. It didn't really work that well.
Not in Washington anyway, right? Anyway, well, if the Habs have some superstitions and they're using them, they've been working the last couple of games. They don't play again until Saturday when the Golden Knights will visit the Bell Center. So that's it for this week's Hockey Inside Out show. We'll be back with a new show next week. In the meantime, please make sure you like and subscribe to the Hockey Inside Out YouTube channel. Go to MontrealGazette.com/newsletters to sign up for the Hockey Inside Out newsletter. And of course, go to HockeyInsideOut.com where you'll find all the latest Canadiens news every day. Also, please leave your comments on the show in the comment section below. We always like to know what you think about the show. See you again next week.